bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on SiriusXM FC.
Welcome, everyone, to a new edition of USL All Access, wherever you might be on this Tuesday night. It is an Open Cup week. It is the passing of Week 2, the beginning of Week 3 of the championship season. All the League One teams are in action in the Open Cup. A third of the championship is involved in the Open Cup. We're going to cover it all. But there was major retirement news that in some ways was a shock, in other ways really wasn't, and probably was about time and the way things had started this year, perhaps not surprising at all. King Kenny is retired. We'll chat with him later in the show. Devon will. Speaking of Devon, the man who survived what felt like maybe his scariest plane ride ever midweek is here to tell the tale. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, Emmett McConnell. Dev, you're alive.
Oh, man. Have you, I know you have. When's the last time you walked off a plane and went, that one got to me a little bit?
I have not kissed the ground off a plane in probably 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, and it's been a solid half decade for me. And I had 2 in 3 days. MLS game on the weekend, traveled on Friday. Connection flight from Atlanta to John Glenn Airport, Kansas City. Was not fun. 1,000 feet off the deck. We weren't even touch and go. We just balked. And on the way out, the captain said, you know what? In honor of the passengers sitting in 5A, we're going back to the mothership. And they took me to Omaha, Nebraska. Oddly enough, the airport wouldn't let me get off the plane. That's a whole nother conversation. It was fun. I'm here to tell the tale. I think you shared this story, Mike, when it comes to travel, if I'm not mistaken. And if I am, the best story I've ever heard is an announcer, and it's a very famous announcer, and they asked him, was it a good flight? And he looked at the person and said, I'm here, aren't I? So you make your flight. It's a good flight. You got to where you needed to be and you're alive. You're just stuck with me. Tyler Terrence did definitely not say
legendary
in his own mind.
Okay.
Open Cup edition. Hopefully he's listening to this in the middle of his game tonight.
Yeah, okay.
Speaking of which, Open Cup is back, baby.
Confirmed it is back. Dev, let's before we get to Open Cup, and you could argue King Kenny had his moments in this tournament. He certainly had him in the championship. Hell, he had him in the Arena League, playing in Syracuse. Kenardo Forbes, Jamaican international, Bob Lilly disciple for the better part of a decade. One of the all-time greats in the championship. All-time assist leader, all-time appearance leader, one of a kind. Has retired from Pittsburgh 2 weeks into the year. He'll take an assistant coaching role in Pittsburgh. I remember talking with Bob Lilly about this at the tail end of last season, that whenever Kenny was, in fact, ready to hang him up, he had a place in Pittsburgh. He was going to be taken care of. He'd given so much to the club, to Bob, to the league, that was never in doubt. But, Dev, this was the moment for a guy who played in the first game that I ever called in this league in October of 2015 when his Rochester Rhinos won the title.
Raging.
Indeed, they raged so hard. They raged against the machine that was the LA Galaxy, too, at the time.
Get in there, son.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh. Humble, epic competitor, terrific set-piece service over the years. There will be a ton of great players that come through this league, but Mount Rushmore will probably always have a chiseled Kenny on its face as it pertains to this league.
If we're having a conversation 30 years from now and all of the records that he's set, regular season appearance leader, minutes leader, the assist king, even if those somehow find their way down the ladder, what he has helped do in ushering the game in the league specifically into a new era will never be forgotten, which is why for me he always stays atop, the top 4, top 5 players to ever play in this league, because it's kind of like when you get into the conversation of the greatest NBA basketball players, not the best of all time, you can still make comparisons for what Oscar Robertson did, right? You can still go back to a Kareem and a Wilton, and while some of their stats have fallen off in certain areas, just the ability to help steer the direction appropriately for what is a championship league that has seen so many different visions over the years. Modern era, 2011, there's the single table with a handful of teams. We go to an East and a West. We see the rebrand a few years later after that. He has been on teams where he certainly wasn't the best player on the team in terms of skill sets and things like that. And he's also been the only guy standing that you felt like gave them a reason to be successful. And yet, in 10 years, never missed the playoffs. His worst finish was 7th last year. He's won the East a couple of times, won the Players' Shield, won the treble in 2015. A finalist for Player of the Year. He's kind of really done everything, right, Mike? Like, for me, the conversation never varies that Kenardo Forbes is one of the best to ever do it in this league.
Yeah, and I think when you try and put Kenny's accomplishments on paper, you may say he never won MVP or he had the one title, and it's easy to look at counting stats on either side of the ledger and say maybe he's not the top at any one particular moment, but like his consistency,
Reliability
last year
in a
was,
game.
Last year was so weird. I almost forgot that time had gone by in how often he was coming off the bench, occasional games where he didn't play. It was like off-putting to me because I've been here long enough, and he's been there literally from the first game I ever did, that time has passed. I'm old.
But trivia before we segue here.
Yeah.
You mentioned the history, obviously, Kenardo Forbes and what he's done possibly in the Open Cup. He only had one goal in the Open Cup run of play. Any chance you know when or whom that it was against?
No chance.
That's a hard one. You had to reach into it. It was a part of one of the really good teams when you stacked his 10-year career up. That 2019 Pittsburgh Riverhounds team that finished first in the Eastern Conference, falling to only Phoenix Rising, who ran away with the record book that year. A 9th-minute goal hosting Indy 11. Man, those 2019, 2020, 2021 games against Indy 11 were awesome. They won 1-0, by the way. They would go on to lose the Columbus Crew. But that was King Kenny's only goal in Open Cup field of play. Good thing that he scored so many others that we couldn't count on one hand how many there were. And I certainly can't count that high. So I digress.
No, math. So Kenardo Forbes will join us later in the show. Wide-ranging interview. Look forward to hearing what he has to say. Dev, let's chat a little bit about what's going on the field this past week. Probably the biggest match on paper, and we talked about it last week, revolves more on who signed the lineup sheet than any particular individual on it. Dennis Sanchez seeing his former team going back to Las Vegas as the head coach for New Mexico. Did you try and name this? Is that what this is?
It's not an effort. It's just me being a dad, right? The Dennis Sanchez Derby. Darby's by Dennis.com, right? We should throw that in there given the modern day. And my personal favorite, ain't no sinning, not worth winning game. Dennis is going to listen to this and be like, I am never going on that show again.
Yeah, well, I would say this show is Breaking Bad puns.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about the performance.
Okay, well, the Albuquerque joke. Anywho, so New Mexico went up 2-0. Yeah, all right. Gaines and Hurst. Johnny Rodriguez gets one back. Then Joe Zhao, a 20-yard hit. You go, wow, Vegas equalizes. They're going to take a point at home, and Dennis Sanchez will wish he had stayed. And then Will Seymour, off a corner, somehow finds its way over the line. I will say, and I said it last year, I'm going to say it again, myself included, if I want to hear anyone in the championship call a winner at 90+5, it's Sean St. Jacques.
He's got pipes, man.
He's got pipes. Astonishing, right word, right moment. Anywho, the only other thing I'll add to this before I let you jump in, the lineup graphic for Las Vegas pops on the screen, and I'm watching this. That mannequin has an 8-pack. And then you add on the collar. Too much. Too much.
Little known fact, that's actually me modeling the jersey.
Yeah, all right.
The picture was taken.
What happened in the game, Devin?
Picture was taken in 2009. Listen, you encapsulated the game. New Mexico United controlled it. That was a motion as opposed to tactics at the tail end of that game. That's how I felt anyway. I give them credit for at least getting back into it, but the control that we saw from New Mexico United, once again, thought they did a really good job on the ball. It's something that's just going to continue to get better and better as the week goes on. And I think if you're a team right now, you're just trying to find out what sort of identity you have. There's no doubt in my mind that New Mexico United have taken what Eric Quill had and just sprinkled Dennis Sanchez into it respectfully. And they're just sort of evolving within that. Whereas Vegas they're trying to find a direction. And it seemed very different. Like ideas were there, but like as they would build, guys were in the wrong spots. I thought poor decision making in certain moments, but they did create moments, which is the most important thing to me.
We'll chat about a couple other big matches from the week that was. One of the more entertaining ones we've had a little later in the show. Before we go to break, Dev, Oakland Roots. They are about to open up the Coliseum, and by open up, I mean reopen after the Athletics left them high and dry because, dare I say, Major League Baseball absolutely screwed the city of Oakland. Home opener against San Antonio at the Coliseum, 20,000 plus tickets out. Where else would you rather be?
I would rather be nowhere else, and it got me to thinking about capacity-wise, attendance, where this would fall in historical values for USL Championship field of play. So, my question to you today, Mike, is do you know the highest crowd to ever attend a USL Championship game? And did you look it up coming into this show?
I did not. Had to be Cincy at Nippert, right?
So my mind was on Cincy as well, and you are sniffing it out correctly. I didn't know which game it was going to be. It was a 2018 match. FC Cincinnati hosting Indy 11 took place on September 29th. Danny Koenig, Fernando Adi got the scoring started, as did an own goal by Carlisle Mitchell. A 3-0 victory for then the craziest show in USL Championship.
Mitchell, that is such a deep cut.
I know.
Wow. Okay.
I know. Former Vancouver Whitecap, kind of traveled the globe, ended up on that 18 Indy 11 team, which saw its entrance into USL Championship field to play. He also saw himself exit that team really quickly.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right, when we come back, King Kenny, Kenardo Forbes, the recently retired Riverhounds captain, will join Devin. I'm off to walk the cat. More USL All Access coming up after this.
Let's get back to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody, to this beautiful Tuesday evening. USL All Access returns on SiriusXM FC. We are in mid-March, and we have reached a very special time of year that I personally thought would never come because selfishly, I never wanted to happen. The grandioseness of what can be introductions within this show. Certainly, we need to spread out the red carpet a little bit further because at No Links for royalty. He has been coined the name King Kenny. Kenardo Forbes now joins us. He has announced his retirement from professional football. No chalice too big for him to hold. No crown too heavy for him to carry. A decade spent within the USL Championship, certainly on the international stage as well with the Reggae Boys. And we no longer have the opportunity to be graced with his presence. So first and foremost, Kenardo, thank you so very much for your time within the league. And thank you for joining us today. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. So, let's start with the easy question. I've certainly seen it in a couple of articles that have come out. 36 years of age, you'd be 37 in March. It's just right around the corner. Again, 10 years spent in the USL Championship. The first year, 2015, you've seen so much success. But what makes this moment right now the one for you to say, it's time for me, at least as a player, to step away from the game and hang my boots up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, physically sometimes I don't think I could hold up as I used to, and I keep a high standard. So if I don't think I could give the coach 90 minutes each and every week, and I think even last season I didn't think I could do it for 90 minutes. So obviously it's the right time to do it because I can't give him 90 minutes, and Bob demands a lot. So. And I can't do it the right way. So if I can't do it the right way, it's the right time to walk away.
Let's start right there. Yeah, I was going to go into some of the individual things, but let's start with Bob Lilly because, I pride myself on background information. I dig to the deepest depths for things. I've actually never even asked Bob this, and Bob and I have a great relationship. How did you even end up in the United States with Bob Lilly, who at that point in time, you guys were at the Rochester Raging Rhinos? Shout out to the jersey. They were kind enough to send me back then. But that was 2015. How did you make your first move here to the championship?
Yeah, I was in Syracuse playing indoor soccer. And my coach, Tommy Tanner, he used to play for the Rochester Rhinos back in the days. So he the one who introduced me to Bob Lilly. And he said to Bob, you need this play. If you have this play, you're going to win a championship. That's his exact words to Bob. And so Bob used to watch me play indoor because he used to coach indoor. So he used to watch me play when we go to Harrisburg or play the Rochester indoor team. So he pretty much know about me me playing indoors.
Yeah, you said that, Bob Lilly demands a lot. It's probably the understatement of the century. All due respect to Bob. Again, I have nothing but the utmost admiration for what he brings to the sidelines. I've said time and time again that at some point in time when he decides that he is no longer to be in the technical area, that he should be involved in the conversation for the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame as a coach. But within those demands comes a ton of responsibility. Can you maybe describe as a player over the years what it's been like to play for him and maybe express some of that burden as a player that you have to bear, especially for you, because you've worn the captain's armband for quite some time under Bob Lilly?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. My first year was really hard. You said the first 2-3 months getting to know him because I've never been with a coach who put such demand on me, especially defensively. I used to play like a 10, don't really track back, just play when I have the ball. So he changed a lot for me. So when I got there, I realized I have to learn to defend. You're going on the bench, and I'm not the one for the bench. So I have to adapt really quick to him. Took me like 2 months. I wanted to quit at first. My first time saying that and here, but after getting used to him and you see that the tactics work, and if everyone buying as a team, if everyone on the same page as a team, you'll win games. So after the first 2 months, came a lot easier for me, knowing I understand what he wanted from me as a player. So, and as far as responsibility on the field, it's more like on the field because in practice he runs everything, so he don't leave anything up to chances with no one. So on the field, I know what exactly he wants. So even my second year, I wear the captain armband that season. So we have a lot of meetings, so I know what he wants in certain moments. So sometimes I have to be like the coach on the field. He will just say, Kenny, one, and I know exactly what he wants. So the responsibility is good to have as a player, and so to have that responsibility as a player, you get respect from the coaching staff and also your fellow teammates. So I think that's been good for me, and it's gonna make me a better coach if I choose to go further into coaching.
I believe the first time that Bob mentioned the idea of you expressing interest in coaching, while I'm certain that it was expressed on your end to him sooner, was sometime around late 23, early 24, and just kind of talked about your interest level. And, you know, within that responsibility that you mentioned, spoken to a ton of, you know, your former teammates, current guys on the Riverhounds even. You know, you talked to Robbie Mertz or Danny Griffin, Danny Rivera, Vidiello back in the day, and they just talked about how you were like that coach. At what point in time, and maybe this is years ago, did you feel like you would have interest after playing of taking that foray into the coaching sector of football?
Yeah, was in 22. I think, because I love the game of football, and I know at some point I'm getting like 33, 34, 35. So I know at some point I have to start to lean in that direction, because staying home in the mornings, I can't get used to it. In the off season, I get bored. So imagine coming up on the season and I'm staying home with the kids, taking the kids to school, and then come back home to sleep or whatever. So it's annoying. I don't like that. So I like being out there with the guys. Even now, I still practice with the guys. Bob still uses me in training. I play one game in preseason. So I've been busy on the field and off the field, because my office is close to Bob's office. So he always pop in, or he always call me in his office. And, you know, you have a 30 minutes, 45 minutes conversation in the morning before practice. So I've been learning a lot from him and John Bush and Rob Vincent. So they take me in well.
You guys have quite the list there. Certainly some massive names in United States football for sure, and great people to learn from. We're speaking with Kenardo Forbes, a USL Championship record holder, all-time regular season appearance leader, minutes leader as well, and the assist leader, King Kenny, as he was coined for years, self-appointed or not, and we'll get there. I just mentioned some of the individual accolades. I have to do a reset so that, you know, everybody recognizes who we're having the opportunity to speak with. Let's go to some of those individual accomplishments. 295 regular season appearances. That's first all-time in USL Championship play. That's accompanied with 22,224 minutes. Also, the most ever played in USL Championship history. 66 assists. Again, also the most in USL Championship history. You have been busy, this part on the field. The next closest player, by the way, active players that would have an opportunity to get anywhere near that. Enzo Martinez, currently with the Birmingham Legion, has 51, and Aidan Quinn, now employing his trade at the Indy 11 with 50. Everything that I've been told about you as an individual is your humble ability to continue through life, to find the positives, that it's not always about you. If ever, it's always about the team, the journey, getting better. Yes, you have to focus on those individual traits, but it's always about the group and how to find success within. With that has come a lot of individual praise, though, and I'll give some more in a second. So I'm just kind of curious, when you hear the numbers of appearances or minutes or the assists, are any of those three something that jump out to you? Or is there maybe something else that maybe means a little bit more when it comes to those accolades that come with such a long tenure?
I'll just say the minutes played, because that showed durability and availability. So I think that's the most impressive to me, because I think over my 10-year career in the USL, I've been hurt maybe once, missed 4 games, and I think that was in 2020. So I've been blessed to stay healthy, stay fit over the years. And not a lot of players could say that. So I think that's the one that meant the most to me.
7 times in your 10-year career, you were named to one of USL Championship All-League teams, including finishing top 3 in the 2019 season that saw you guys finish first in the Eastern Conference for Player of the Year. You're also the first player ever in USL Championship history to have back-to-back double-digit assist seasons. They don't call him the king for no reason. Where did that name come from, by the way? Years ago, it just seemed to pop up on the radar that King Kenny was in the house. I certainly took it and ran with it because you were running the reins on the field, doing anything you wanted to do.
Bob gave me that name.
Did he?
Yes, because he said the players cater to me all the time. Like they always want to give me the ball. Like they always they look up to me a lot. So he just said, "Oh, that's the king."
You've certainly set the table quite a few times for a numerous amount of teammates. Let's shift to the teams. You mentioned the adjustment period, first couple of months coming here in 2015, and specifically I'm referencing the badge that's currently on this jersey of the then Rochester Raging Rhinos. That 2015 team did something that only three teams total have been able to do in this league, and that's win the treble. Now, the league was not always divided into conferences. There was a league table that was just unified at one point in time.
Yeah.
But in 2015, you guys won the regular season, the Players' Shield as it's coined. You then won the Eastern Conference in the playoffs, and you won the championship. What some people considered, myself included, as one of the best teams to ever step on the USL Championship field to play. The other two, by the way, following year, New York Red Bull 2, 2016, and then San Antonio FC in 2022. Can you maybe describe what that team was like, and then on the back end of it, the growth that you've seen in 10 years since that first title till now?
Yeah, I mean, that team was special. We had everything we needed. Like, we have guys who do the dirty work, and we have guys who just bring quality to that team. So I think that team was special. A lot of senior guys, you'd say, like a lot of guys who, like mature guys. So Bob didn't really have to police us as much, because guys like Tony Wall, Anoy, Obasi, Pat, we have a lot of guys who take charge. In that, it was my first season, so I look up to those guys who take charge. So Bob didn't have to do as much. And over the years, after like the team got younger, I see what those guys have to deal with, because I became that guy. Try to take some burden off Bob. So I think that team was great. We didn't need a lot of the ball to win. We could play, once we get ahead, no one come back. So once we score first, that was it. The only game we didn't score first, that's the one we lost to Charlotte, I think, 4-2. That's the only game we lost that season. So Bob put together a really strong team, and we had no egos on that team. Everyone understand their role in that team. So I think that's the biggest reason we won, because everyone know their role, and Bob made it clear, like, these are the starting guys. And Bob rotated a lot that season also, because we had a lot of midweek games, and to lose one game in a regular season, conceded 15 goals for the whole season. That was incredible. And as you said, the growth of the league over the years, it's been getting better each and every season, because a lot more quality players coming in. Back then, it wasn't so much about the quality back then. So I think on our team, 2015 we had a couple quality guys, but we had more guys who work hard, who understand their job. These days, it's more like it's about quality, even though you still have to work hard. But I think over the years, it's becoming a more based on quality. Because if you don't have quality, you're not going to win games, because a lot of teams defend well these days. Back then, you had like a certain gimmicks, like we play a certain teams, oh, that's a sure win. Right now, you can't say that. You can't say that right now. So I think the league has grown tremendously over the years.
Kenardo, where would that 15 team fall in the table right now? How do you think that team would fare against some of the more modern teams that you just referenced?
I still think with the grit and that togetherness of that team, I think we'll still be pretty much at the top. But
yeah,
it will be tough.
Your phone's going to blow up after that one. The guys are going to hear, "Come on, man, you got to stick up for us." And then all the current guys are going to be like, "We'd smoke you."
Yeah. I got to be honest.
We're speaking with Kenardo Forbes, King Kenny. Self-anointed is not true. Turns out that his legendary manager, Bob Lilly,
yes,
guy coined that years ago. Kenardo Forbes just announced his retirement from professional football. One of the all-time USL Championship greats has been kind enough to join us today. Kenardo, the 10 years, I was looking at the teams that you played on. First 3 seasons, 15, 16, and 17. We just talked about the 2015 team that won the treble with the Rochester Rhinos, 18 until this year, Pittsburgh Riverhounds. You, for the first 6 years, never finished worse than 4th. You never missed the playoffs in the history of your career in either stop, including a first-place finish in the East in 2019. You guys won the Players' Shield, which means you finished first amongst the Eastern Western Conference in 2023. Is there a team that, not accomplishment-wise, but in terms of the personnel, maybe some of the brotherhood that sticks out to you more than others? And obviously the titles are going to come along with it because you go through stuff, but is there one that sticks out maybe a little bit more, or even a few that are going to leave a lasting memory on you?
I'll say a few. Like 2015 was really special. Good locker room.
Yeah.
That was a special group. And that year when we won the supporter shield, that was a good group also. So I'll go 2015. And what was that? 2022?
The 22 team.
Yeah, that was special.
Why the 22 team?
As you said, we as leaders on the team that season, we came together, we speak up. Sometimes we, as I said before, we take a lot of Bob play. So we policed ourselves. Other seasons, sometimes Bob have to police us more. So those 2 teams, I think, more mature and guys who working towards one goal. Like other years, like, guys just playing for themselves. They want to get 15 goals for themselves just because they could go somewhere else and make more money. So, as I said, no ego was in that team, those 2 teams. Yes, well, those 2 teams special.
Yeah, well said. Kenardo, before we get you out of here, just picking your brain on some quick fire memories of what has been such a storied career, again, spanning a decade in USL Championship field of play between the Rochester Rhinos, still raging back then, man, when you guys were there, and most recently of the Pittsburgh Riverhounds in the Eastern Conference of the USL Championship. Do you have a favorite memory within the championship? I know it, and respectfully, I know it's easy to go back to 15 and say list in the title. I get that. But maybe something a little bit outside of a title run.
I would say, what was that? Which year was that? My favorite memory was that season I scored twice against Indy, and I think that was a big game. We needed to. Maybe that was 2019. Maybe.
It was probably the 19th season.
Yes. So
that's
we
when
needed
Indy came in. Indy came into your year or 2 years prior, and they were pretty stacked that year. You guys had some legendary battles.
Yes. And that game, we needed that game to separate ourselves from India. And I think I came up big in that game, even though I don't really score a lot. But that game was pretty special for me.
This is a 2-part. Favorite player to have played with. The first part of it is in terms of the player on the field, the playing style, maybe the way that they accompanied you within the field of play.
I would say Jordan Dover. Interesting. Yeah.
How about personality? That could be on the field and off the field, maybe the relatability factor for you.
Personality. It's a tough one. Steven DeSantos. Duba.
Just recently stepped away from the game as well.
Yeah,
you guys are on a little text chat there, having yourselves a nice little retirement, aren't you?
Yeah. That's my guy.
One of the things that I've always wanted to ask you selfishly is, you go from the island nation of Jamaica, which holds a special spot in my heart, to the northeast of the United States, this cold, desolate region. You're in upstate New York, right? You're Syracuse, first of all, and then just a little bit further to Rochester. And I guess it would be like summertime coming down to Pittsburgh. What's your favorite food? Because that culinary scene is certainly very different than the island greats that we get down in Jamaica.
I would say steamed fish. because I don't eat meat anymore.
Yeah.
For me, maybe like 8-9 years now.
Okay.
Yeah,
How about Pittsburgh food? Wings, burgers, obviously cheesesteaks. Anything up there tickle your fancy?
No, I'll just
No.
maybe it's cheese pizza.
Cheese pizza. Hey, that's not a bad thing, man.
Yeah.
Dairy's still a part of the food group, right?
Yeah, cheese pizza. I don't eat meat. I never had a burger in my life.
Never. Even so, when you were growing up, no oxtail, no nothing.
Yeah, I used to eat meat.
Okay, not ground beef. Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay,
no.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
We play this game from time to time on USL All Access where we talk about our Mount Rushmore, right? Who we feel like would be the 4 or 5 greats that have ever been involved in USL Championship play. When you announced your retirement, I said that if there is a Mount Rushmore of USL Championship, that you're the captain of all of them. I'd like you to, at least for the moment, whether you agree with that or not, step aside from that conversation. If you could say who the 4 or 5 best players ever that you think have been in this league outside of yourself, who would you include in that? You've seen a lot.
Yeah, I've seen a lot.
Some really good guys that have come through in your time.
I've seen a lot. I go with, I think Enzo has been pretty consistent. Enzo. I played with Sean Tosh as a center back. He's good. He's up there for me. I got to go with Speedy. Yeah. The resume is good. Championship is good. So still missing one more. What do I need? One missing. I like Lancaster.
Cam.
Yeah.
I was going to say for a second there, no love for the boys on the front line. I thought maybe you were going to keep reversing, maybe going to a goalkeeper, call like, Brandon or something.
Like Cam Lancaster is good. Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Again, one of the greatest, if not the greatest careers that we've ever seen in USL Championship play. Just to recap, Kenardo Forbes, record holder, all-time regular season appearances, minutes, and assists. If you didn't hear the specific numbers just there, it's because I didn't say them. Go back and listen. Go Google. His name is intertwined in this league and will be for the rest of its history. Kenardo, thank you so very much for your time, bud. We wish you nothing but the best of luck in your next venture on the sideline.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
There goes Kenardo Forbes again. The decade that was in USL Championship. Can't even imagine the plethora of information that he's going to be able to share with the future stars of tomorrow in this great league. You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Don't go anywhere.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on SiriusXM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
We're back on USL All Access. Miss a part of Kenardo Forbes' interview with Devon. It's available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page in stunning full-color video. It's also available on the SiriusXM app. USL All Access, Mike Watts, Devon Kerr, Emmett McConnell at the controls. How about we chat about Week 2 for a moment here, Devon? Really entertaining match week. We already talked about New Mexico and Las Vegas earlier in the show. Cal Jennings, I think a lot of people might pick him to win the Golden Boot. Wouldn't be money poorly spent. Eastern Conference final rematch at Patriots Point for the Battery against Rhode Island. Both goals to Cal. 2-0 win for the Battery. Takeaways from what was probably the best actual game coming into this week.
To me, most importantly, you got him on the ball more. Cal Jennings, not just touches, Mike, thought he was more aggressive in his movements. They got him forward-facing, a lot more opportunities. I think the 2 goals were absolutely gross and poor defending by Rhode Island FC. That's not to take away from anything that needed to be success, if not just in the form of goals, but actually getting him included into the run of play for Cal Jennings. Because especially his second one, he's so good with movements. He ducks, he dives. You know, he's understanding of when to come into the pocket. Just trying to find a rhythm within that Battery team, which was much better on the night. They called it revenge. I'm sure the Charleston Battery would much rather have back the result that was the Eastern Conference final of last year compared to a match day 2 game this year.
Dev, are you adding D's to the 5 D's for Jennings? Because last I checked, it was dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge.
No, there's others.
Okay.
Drop it like
yeah.
it's hot.
Yep. Tulsa, Luke Spencer, consummate winner. 2 wins from 2. Patrick Seeger is the winner. 73rd minute, they take it 1-0 over the Rowdies. San Antonio, they're off to a perfect start. Shut out the Hounds. Goals from Hernandez and Hawkinson. 2-0 win there. Detroit in Colorado Springs. Duke Lacroix ends up being an own goal that gives Detroit the victory on the road. Thoughts on what City put together?
Here's my thing about Detroit City, and I've said this all along. They need a 9, right? They need a 9. They need goals. I'm still not in love with the way that they build to try and find those. The good news is, and this is, I'm trying to play the good and bad here and be positive, right? It's week 2. It's easier for people to jump on people's backs because it's the hot topic type era. Darren Smith gets on the score sheet, kind of like the Cal Jennings conversation, like just to get, sometimes it's just the action. And it's very easy to get wrapped up in storylines and this is the streak and, the build and tactics. And I'm the first one to break everything down. There is also something just about plain and simple confidence. And for a striker, putting the ball in the back of the net. Love the fact that it was response. I certainly love the fact for Detroit City that it was on the road. Colorado Springs gets bested for the first time in quite some time, and certainly since they took down the title in the fall. I'm not overly concerned if I'm Colorado Springs. Never really am. Defending is still a little bit off, but there's a real belief within that locker room that they feel like they can go get a result no matter what. We saw that week 1. Lady Luck got in the way in week 2.
Monterey Bay grabs 3 goals in 15 minutes to beat Oakland Roots 3-2. That was right around halftime. Mohamedou War debuted for Orange County, didn't feature week 1. He was a trialist for the team. A late equalizer denies Lexington a perfect start through 2 games out in Orange County. The Sunday game was Birmingham and Louisville. They had to play a day later than anticipated due to those horrific storms through the Midwest and into the South. Ronaldo Damas, a goal right before halftime, is enough to get a point. Devon, El Paso, and Phoenix. 4-4. El Paso led this game in the second half, 4-1. They blow the lead in the most El Pasoan way I have ever seen. Oh my gosh. Is this a Puskas nominee? Mo Traore scores 86th minute from just beyond half field. First time, the ball comes right to him, and he hits a laser beam 55 yards into top corner. What are we talking about? I'll answer the first part. It's not a Puskas. Stop it. Okay. But it was awesome.
So recognizing the skill sets of that player, is there any possibility that he didn't mean to strike that ball?
Oh, there's a possibility for sure. It might even be a likelihood.
I can't tell you how many times a defender, especially when frustration is mounting over and like energy is involved and you're just stepping through, and I see the red because I'm a bull and I'm in a china shop and I'm coming through and I'm hunting you down, baby, and running straight at someone just trying to win a ball to do whatever I can, and I will follow through, and I have unleashed. And it's ended up in some really good spots. And to me, it kind of looks like maybe he did that. I don't really care because he hit it from freaking, I can't use that one out loud. I'll just say Pluto. It's still a planet. A different planet would have too many pun jokes here. Young team gave up some really sloppy goals to start the game. 2 weeks in a row, I've been very impressed with the aggression from El Paso. There's no doubt from Wilmer that he's got some players really flying underneath him. They are pressing. They're moving all over the field. There's control within the midfield. Love their transitional play. Credit to them to getting one back right away. But El Paso should have closed this game out, and Phoenix got a Christmas gift in the month of March.
Before we go to break, Dev, 2 quick questions. There are 5 teams without a loss or a draw: Loudoun, Detroit, San Antonio, Tulsa, Indy, and Sacramento. That's not 5. That's 6. You can't count.
I didn't change the rundown. You still said it out loud. Don't read the prompter, Ron.
Biggest surprise.
Oh, I don't want to say Tulsa.
Tulsa. It's
yeah,
Tulsa.
I feel bad, but I've seen it before with Loudon. It's unsurprising with Detroit, San Antonio, and Sac. It's an expectation. It has to be Tulsa. Yeah. I don't want to because they've played well and they deserve it. But, yeah, I didn't see him being 2-0.
Best game of week 3 is what?
Open Cup right around the corner, Michael.
Okay.
You walked right into that, and you were getting no other answer than such.
Yeah. Aesthetically, Louisville, Loudon. In terms of atmosphere, Oakland, San Antonio. In terms of goals, Phoenix and Rhode Island. There you go. Sac and Colorado Springs, they get screwed. When we come back, we preview Open Cup Round 1 next year on USL All Access.
You're listening to USL All Access on SiriusXM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Back here on USL All Access, Mike Watts, Devon Kerr. The U.S. Open Cup returns. Dev, I feel like this is like our favorite experience of the year. Talking to coaches that we've never heard of, clubs we've never heard of, and falling in love with the game again.
Oh, man, being a part of upsets from the past, looking at all of these teams that have so many dreams of what could be a Cal FC from the early teens in the 2000s. You know, a first-year startup squad like Sarasota in League One that was New Mexico United in the championship in 2019. There are a few things that get my blood bubbling like this, Mike. Maybe a Sunday after stroll with you and a tasty beverage that is obviously lemonade-based. Other than that, I'm pretty content with just doing this the rest of my life next to you.
Yeah, well, it's not blood boiling for me, but I would actually add El Farolito, which is stomach bubbling for me.
Which we experienced firsthand last year.
We did, and actually,
after the
fantastic.
It was
so good. No gastrointestinal issues afterward whatsoever.
I got to tell you, during that CrowdStrike issue with Delta, my stomach was a little bit concerned at 2:30 in the morning walking through the Minnesota airport.
Dev, let's chat a little bit here. So 11 games tonight, 13 tomorrow, 8 on Thursday. 32 games in the first round, so 64 teams will make their 2025 Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup debut this week. 16 MLS teams are in relative to 8 last year. They'll come in the 4th round, which is the beginning of May. 8 championship teams go in round 1, then 24 will have entered by round 3. So the remaining 16, those are your playoff teams. That is middle of April. Every first-round game, pro against amateur. So Championship, League One, MLS, Next Pro. Your pro teams, obviously. I mean, pros in the name. League Two, MPSL, UPSL, local qualifiers, of which there are numerous, all enter into that neck of the woods. Everyone's trying to get into the first week of April, which is round 2. The games are on U.S. Soccer's YouTube page. Devin and I will be calling a number of them. There are 9 former champions in the field. There are also some Next Pro teams that represent organizations that have won titles as well. It's the first time we've ever had the Open Cup winner not defend their crown in the modern era. LAFC, not a part of it this year. LAFC 2 is. See what I did there? Dev, 25 debutantes. 3 of them are matched up against one another. Would you like to pick one game and explain to me how this is possible?
For any game or the amateurs?
The one game you have written down.
FC Naples and Sarasota Paradise. Just because I couldn't think fast enough and I had trouble writing down on the format, you're calling me out in front of the country. You know, I asked you not to read the prompter before. You could have put this on the prompter for me because I could have read it. To me, it's a regional thing. Okay. Spending the latter portion of my youth in South Florida, Naples has always been near and dear to my heart. What's gone on over there in the past couple of years with Hurricanes, I thought it was really cool that we're going to see the 2 clubs play each other in terms of the debuts. The amateur matchups against USL Championship teams in the first round, there's 8 games there. The biggest one to me is going to be the Tulsa Athletic game because Tulsa Athletic beat them a couple of years ago. Now, the field was a 4-letter word that I'm not allowed to say on air, and you can use your imaginations because it sounds like shout. But they beat them 1-0 in 2023. That's always been an issue for Tulsa, and Tulsa's turned some things around. So I'm excited about that.
Hartford has already taken the field tonight, so I can say they have 12 pros available. So New York Shockers, who knows? Loudoun and Westchester, you and I know those Westchester boys. They're up for a fight. Lexington and Southern Indiana. Birmingham goes to Little Rock Rangers. El Paso, Monterey Bay, Miami FC all involved as well. Quick Miami FC note there, Dev, on the roster.
Yeah, a little format change for Open Cup this year, which I found interesting. Bill Hamid actually appeared in qualifying, the former MLS national team pool goalkeeper for Virginia Dream. But Open Cup changed its structure this year so that anyone that plays in qualifiers for one team can then play in tournament proper for the other. Previous years, you were cup tied, and you could not go team to team.
Yep. Also, Devin and I are calling Des Moines. We haven't picked what we're going to do in that game yet to really do it up, but it's going to be rad. Absolutely rad. Dev, did you learn anything in this show?
I learned that it is possible to enter the field of play known as, I can speak at some point in time, the United States, move to the Northeast. I'm referencing Kenardo Forbes' interview, and never touch a Philly cheesesteak or any ground beef of sorts to indulge in the American cuisine. My man's on steamed fish and cabbage. That is why he's King Kenny.
I didn't learn anything in this show. Not a damn thing.
Great.
For Devin, Emmett, Mike, we'll talk to you again next Tuesday night, and then hopefully we'll learn something along the way. So long for now, everyone.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.